I think one of the most common questions we get from clients and prospective clients is, how does property ownership actually work in Mexico when you're a foreigner? And I think it's a really good question. So first and foremost, the Mexican Constitution originally prohibited foreigners from owning property in Mexico in restricted zones. And a restricted zone is defined as something within approximately 50 kilometers of a coastline, which is where a lot of our clients do want to buy property, or 100 kilometers of a border. And so, that is something that still remains in the Constitution today. However, there have been amendments to the Constitution that permit and actually encourage foreign home ownership in Mexico. And so one of those amendments enables foreign purchases in restricted zones via the use of trust. That's the English translation for it, but the Spanish word is a fideicomiso. And there are various different types of fideicomisos, and Global Mortgage uses a customized one that offers a lot of protection to our clients to ensure that they securely own the asset that they're paying for, right? And that's called a fideicomiso de garantia. And so technically the trust on title owns the property. It's managed by a fiduciary bank. And that fiduciary bank grants beneficiaries under the trust. So effectively, clients can own, improve, profit from the sale, give as part of their estate. It's an actual asset, that fideicomiso, that trust, or their beneficiary, their rights under that trust. And that's the way that it's commonly done and has been done for decades. There are some misnomers, there are some misconceptions out there that this is a land lease or something like that. It's absolutely not true. So that's pretty, I don't know where that came from, but owning a property in Mexico there's some slight nuances to it and definitely requires expertise, which our team definitely provides, in order to ensure that that property is securely owned and that it's recorded properly under Mexican law, which is something we take really, really seriously. So with respect to recording of a property transfer sale, what some people might not know is that in order to legally own what you're buying, you absolutely need to do a real closing. And we often hear about, oh, well, I can expedite the closing. I can do the closing from the United States. That is not true. And a soft closing does not mean that you're going to own what you're paying for. And unfortunately, there are lots of buyers and sellers and real estate agents that may be misinformed, that guide buyers into doing transactions like this, where they don't show up for the closing in front of a notario publico, and all parties sit around a table and execute the transaction live before a notario publico. A notario publico is very different than what a notary is in the United States. So the literal translation of notario publico is a public notary. And you might think that that would be just like the notary that comes to your house and notarizes your signature on a document in the United States, or that you go to the FedEx Kinko store and sign before. Very, very different in Mexico. So notario publicos are appointed and have special powers from the government. Many of them are attorneys. They have large staff that work in their office that help. And those notarios have the power to oversee and ensure the secure transfer of title or of ownership of anything really, but property especially. Each notario publico has different powers that are afforded to them by the government, and researching the notario to ensure that they have the right powers is really, really important to be able to execute and formalize the transaction that's being done. Global Mortgage works with notarios across Mexico and verifies their credentials to ensure they have the right powers, that all the documentation is in line. The paperwork that's signed has to be printed on folio paper from the notario, and the paper itself, there's a lot of specifics around the paper itself. It has to be the right kind. Each page is numbered and so on and so forth. So it's a very official process. it's a very manual and paper-driven process, which is distinctly different to that which we expect generally with property closings in the United States, but it's the way it's done. So I would just advise any clients or prospective clients or any potential buyers that are foreigners looking to purchase property in Mexico, make sure that you are sitting before a notario publico, that the seller is there. If you are financing, that you have a representative from the finance company, and that the fiduciary for the fideicomiso is also there. And when all parties come together and sign, that's when the transaction becomes official in the eyes of Mexican law, and that those rights under the fideicomiso actually belong to you, and the seller's interest is relinquished. And it's really, really important that clients are doing that. That would be my biggest piece of advice. And to that end, we do this all day long, every day, and our capable team has several hundred years of experience combined in doing these types of transactions. So I would just invite anybody that has these questions to pick up the phone and give us a call. And even if you're not financing a loan, we'll still help you and answer some of those questions, make sure that you are doing things the right way and securely. And so if you work with Global Mortgage, for example, you will appoint a power of attorney in Mexico to sign on your behalf. And if you still want to fly in for the closing, absolutely do that. So it doesn't require that everybody that's party to the transaction actually come themselves, but a representative from each party has to come and sign before the notario publico in order for the transaction to be formalized in the eyes of Mexican law. So power of attorney is a really great tool to use when it's done properly. And I think it's important to just remember any documentation that comes from a foreign country to be recognized legally in Mexico. So that could be your power of attorney. It could be your articles of organization for your LLC, if you're choosing to buy a property vested in a US LLC or a corporation or a trust. Any of those documents that come from a foreign country like the United States, in order to be legal in Mexico, they must be not only notarized in the United States, but also apostilled, which verifies the powers of the notary in the US. And then they have to be certified translated. And so Global takes care of all of that pretty seamlessly. We use a couple of different vendors that can expedite notarizations, apostilles for all 50 states and Washington, DC. They send the digital version of the document to be certified translated by our team in Mexico, and then they send the original via FedEx or DHL. All of that documentation has to be in order and in line before anyone shows up at the notario's office to do any signings.